Welcome to a new episode of the Advancing Consciousness series with Franco Di Nicola. This is a place where people can come to gain further insight and clarity as to what is going on and how we can shift things on a personal and global level, while also accessing higher levels of consciousness and awareness. We bring this series to you free of charge so that many are able to access this information. However, if you resonate with what Franco shares and you would like to support his work, contributions are welcomed and greatly appreciated. A link is in the description and will be provided in the chat if you feel guided to do so. Also, we have many previous workshops, such as a couple of our most recent, Maneuvering with Neutrality and Alignment during this next wave of unfoldments, and Deprogram Clearing Empowerment Workshop. You could also join us in our membership program, Let's Talk About You, where like-minded people come together bi-weekly to talk about the topics requiring deeper understanding and clarity. All of these are available on Teachable, and we encourage you to check them out as they are great resources at very affordable prices to assist in better understanding this human experience. The Teachable link will also be provided in the chat and description. And lastly, don't forget to share. As the more of us coming together and creating a shift in oneself, the more effective it'll be to shift things globally. Thank you for joining us and being part of the change. Enjoy today's broadcast.
So welcome everybody to another episode of Advancing Consciousness. Today is episode 57, and again, it's aimed towards us in the direction that we're going. And in this episode, we're going to look at getting a deeper understanding and also moving through the uncertainty that we're experiencing and the confusion. And many of us are dealing with that on a big scale and across the board. As things continue to accentuate, and so forth, that we feel more and more of it. But at the same time, there's a plus to all of that and a bonus that we really have co-created to make take place. So if you missed on the workshop we just had a few days ago on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it was a 2-day workshop. It was seeing beyond our perceptions to experience a new world, to live a new world. And your new reality, really stepping up into the true state of yourself, then you want to check it out. In the description, you will find a link for it. There's also in the comment section the link where you can get the video and audio recordings. They are not complete right at the moment. However, we do have the rough cuts available, and the clean cuts will be available shortly. So if you missed out, just register. It is on donation basis, so it doesn't become something that will stop you from looking or investing in it because of the fact of having resources that may be limited in any way, shape, or form. So again, no matter where you're looking at or what platform you're using right now, take the opportunity, if you're not signed up in one way or another, so that you get the notification. And please share, because the thing is, if we don't share, it doesn't seem to reach as many people. And right now, we're going through some powerful changes, and it's really powerful for us to be able to be in a position to have any resources that will stimulate our own knowing, will stimulate also our advanced version of ourselves, bringing in the newest version and able to step away from all of the older versions and the older games that we've played, what we can call our old reality, our old way and patterns that we've experienced. So here we are. We're going to be playing today with understanding and moving through uncertainty and confusion. Well, right now, as you can see, 2020 has been a powerful year of much confusion, much change, much destabilization, lots of information streaming from all resources. So-called experts, so-called leaders, so-called underground. We've had so much coming through, plus our own operating systems, what we've learned, what we've experienced, and so forth, are becoming more and more challenged as we are going through. So as the years progress, we've had many things unfold that has put us in a situation where it has put us in a disempowered state, or what looks like a disempowered state, because we've locked ourselves up or anything of that nature, going into a lot of this so-called fear and being that in one way or another that we need to step up in a sense of responsibility for what's going on and in some way take certain actions. But not only that, it's continued to unfold on so many levels at this point in time. And also the introductions and the play of all of the stuff, political, and all of the systems and so forth that support any of that, plus the systems that we've made, as a foundation, our way of life, have been starting to become unbalanced, unstable, and has been showing up for us in a very powerful way where we can't really hold on to it the same way. Now, if you noticed, the more you hang on to the older versions of these narrative stories and whatever else is being played out, the more you go for the ride. And the ride can go up and down. It's like a wild roller coaster. And yes, it can be exciting, thrilling in one way or another, but at the same time, it can create such uncertainty and confusion, which leads into fear and feeling that there is no hope for any future. So the question is, are we at a doom's point? Are we like life and death right now? Or are we in a position of life, life, and more life? Because the thing is, right now, we think we've been living life. And that has been, what we've adopted. But how expansive is that life? How powerful has that life? How much have you been you in that life? How much of that life has been opening up and expanding for you to shape it in a conscious, aware way compared to kind of accepting whatever was already on the screen and saying that's life? The screen is basically all of our different screens, our own personal screen, our extended screens being in our family dynamics and so forth, but the collective screen we call the world itself. Now, we've all gone through the steps and stages of taking those reflections of the screen and saying, oh, that's the way of life. For me to play the game, I have to step in the game. And not only step the game, I have to take and learn from that and utilize it. That's the only way I can play the game. So the point is, you either play the game as it's being displayed, which is collectively fed through many, many versions of perceptions and ideas and concepts, or now we're stepping into a state where we're saying, okay, we're now going to go play, and we are now looking at the stage and seeing the screen for what it is, and then choose absolutely from your own empowered state how you want to reshape it. It's not to be outside of that. We're stepping out of just receiving what we see and adopting it as a way of life, which can create powerful limits, as you've experienced. And now, the way things have been playing out the last year is that those limits are more in our face. Those boxes and everything else that we've come into has been more in our face. The fact that all of these things are being challenged right now is also looking at where we've put our power, our focus, our faith, if you want to call it that. Some people use that word, faith, into systems, ways of life, games, and traditions, and so forth, that may have been stemmed through unconscious state in different ways of understanding that we have not, questioned in any way, shape, or form. But now, what are we doing? We are now questioning it. Even if you're not questioning it from an external view, it's happening within you. And this is where we start to understand, where does uncertainty and confusion come about? So when we are understanding what uncertainty and confusion is all about, what is feeling uncertain for us is the question we ask. What are we feeling uncertain? We are uncertain what the future is going to look like, uncertain how things are going to unfold, uncertain that you may not make it, uncertain that you are going to have what you deemed as a normal life, uncertain that it's going to be okay for your family dynamics, children, whatever is playing on. Are we uncertain to the fate of life? this is what is being challenged for many of us right now. However, if you're at a point where you've made some real progress in your own life and you're connecting with yourself, the uncertainty is actually something you don't put that much focus in or that much power into it anymore. You start to see, hey, we are in this game of uncertainty. Because what happens if I take out of the equation the uncertainty, then I can step into the driver's seat and I'm going to reshape things, because I am no longer depending on what exists. I am now going in and creating that new reality, that new world, that new version of you. And this is the thing, the push we have inside is not to adhere any longer to that older world, that older version of yourself that has gone through many incarnations and so forth, or even if we're looking at this live stream, gone through that path and say, well, that is my life. That version I'm going to hold on to. And many of us have invested a lot of energy, a lot of time, and a lot of focus on versions of yourself that you constructed very carefully and spent a lot of time playing with. So it may seem very difficult to let it go. However, what is it? It's an attachment to it. But do we need to still stay attached? Do we still need to hold on to that? Or can we now let those older versions go? I mean, I've said it many times, and many of you have experienced it over time. All of those versions of yourself and all the interactions and whoever you chose to entangle with or play with or to really get into your playground were all stepping stones of your own experience and advancing in a very powerful way. Now, as much as you may have felt that you had tremendous polarity, powerful labels and definitions of what that represented or how you felt at the time or anything of that nature, each of those experiences have in one way or another nudged you to step forward, to become more yourself, or even just to put that into your operating system so that you would be able to use it at some point. It also allows you to complete certain experiences that you may have had and not completed in, say, previous lives through your physical expression, physical life through your human entity expression, or even soul expression at this point in time. Many of us also chose to go down that path to integrate, understand the human experience, plus to facilitate, to play with specific individuals, to hold a certain energy at that point in time, regardless how we would have deemed it as low or high or anything of that nature. But so those experiences and those versions of ourselves, because we have to step into a version of ourselves, sometimes we call it a facade or whatever it is, to be able to play the game. And many of us choose to play the game full throttle, to dive right in, take the role, like a movie. You take on the role and you become the role while you're playing the role. Now, you may play that role and identify with that role. That gives it more realism. But at the same time, the identification is when you step off the stage or step off the scene, whatever that is, you drop the role. When the movie's done, you drop the role. Many of us got attached to those roles and are still carrying it over. But the thing is, we've played so many roles. We've played so many roles, so many versions of ourselves. Then those are multiple split versions, which everywhere you went to play, doesn't matter where you were at, wherever you went to play, you had a version at work, a version with friends, a version with family, a version with your own home, a version that you played with your own self, being that I am who I am and whatever you identified yourself with. So those versions were great, and all of those versions have served, and those versions were all pretty well constructed under the operating system we call the inverted matrix, inverted 3D and 2D. So this is what we're doing now, is we've already chosen to step outside of that and going out of there. Now, some people have said, look, the inverted matrix is gone and whatever else, and it looks like the world has gone even more insane because it did end last year. Absolutely. But what happens is when you're introducing the organic matrix, what's happening is that now the operating system is higher grade, but we have in conflicts within ourselves because we're still very deeply programmed, and we still have that AI, which we call the ego, that is still trying to keep us in that game. So we have to unravel all of that. So all of this that's unraveling, it's going to create uncertainty. It's going to create confusion. But the thing is, it's not for us to get lost in the confusion and uncertainty. It's really to say, to observe whatever is playing out in the world right now, to just observe the actions and choices and so forth, so that you can fine-tune the direction of your life in a way that you have not done before, because you're having a lot of support. You're having a lot of energetic support, encodements and so forth. Plus, you are being stimulated to become more aware, to access more of your consciousness. The platforms that we started to play with are very organic in the sense of an organic 3D and an organic 5D state, but for you to fully feel supported and to play with either one, it requires you to get grounded and to utilize those platforms more effectively. But we're still in a transition point. We're still trying to let go of our 2D, inverted 3D state and the inverted matrix program. So that's going to create some more of this uncertainty, because there's a part of you that is really wanting to and feeling very connected to those organic states or platforms on the same world. They're interlaid with each other, so you can move back and forth while you're going through the process of advancing. But while you're doing that and you're experiencing all this, we also have another level of confusion or uncertainty that we may feel within ourselves, and that is within ourselves because we have a conflict going on. Is it a negative conflict? No, it's an observational conflict, because we want to look at what we're conflicted about. What are we uncertain about? Well, what's happening? We have a structured way of life that we've experienced for a period of time. Doesn't matter how many years you've been here. Some people are here for 90 years and some people are here only for a few years, whatever. But we've already established a certain fundamental way of life. Now, what's being stimulated, and this is reflective everywhere, what is stimulated within you is that truer essence of you. That truer essence does not quite match what we've established as a way of life and what you've adopted as an idea. This is our world and playground, because it's not matching, because at this point in time it's accessing more of its awareness. Plus, it's stepping into the next level of saying, I am now ready to upgrade my role that I've come here to play. Because all of us have come here to play, to learn, to experience, to become enlightened, but also many of us have come to be a representation of a certain frequency, a state of consciousness, but some of us have also come in to not only understand the game of life, but to also be part of the transformation, part of the upgrades, part of the encodements, and to create new examples or samples of life by experiencing in themselves. Since we're all online, all connected, and when I say online, we're all one, and no matter what anyone experiences, we all have the access to that collective consciousness. Now, of course, we have many different collective consciousness. We create different units. We have a collective consciousness just within yourself, body, human entity, soul, mind. That's your first. And of course, you can throw in the ego if you want to at this point. But you have other ones where your immediate family or surroundings and their extended family, and then all your work environments and so forth. You have all of these clusters of that you experience and play with. Now, these realities that we step into, which we have the choice to do so in any point in time here, is those worlds that we are creating within ourselves create different realities. And those different realities create a resonant frequency that either matches what you're becoming or not. Now, as you are going through these upgrades within yourself, stimulating, you're going to find the confusion starting and the uncertainty within yourself first, where that conflict, like I was saying, is happening, but then you're going to see it reflected in the different stages, your immediate, your extended, and different playgrounds that you go play. Now, what uncertainties are you going to find? You're going to feel that maybe I don't belong here anymore, or the fact is, where's this going to go? Some of us are concerned about our jobs. Some of us are concerned about careers, about family, about friendships, or anything of that nature. Because you're changing. The escape, the environment is changing. The people that are playing in those clusters are changing too. They may be changing at different rates. So you're going to get to the point where I used to relate with them. I used to be able to communicate with them. I used to be able to play there, even though part of you may not have agreed 100%, but you were able to. Now you're noticing it's getting more and more difficult to do so. You're realizing more and more that there's a mismatch, or the fact that in some way you're not sure if you want to even participate any longer, or the fact that it's even going to want you there. So those are some of the things that you're going to be noticed, and that creates levels of uncertainty and confusion. However, when we start to really tune in and connect with ourselves and really feel how we feel guided with ourselves, and we start looking at all of these older versions that make us feel down, because the thing is, if it lowers your frequency, if it triggers certain emotions, those are kind of instrumental tools telling you, hey, wait a minute here. We're no longer to play in these vibrations. We're no longer to go here. And should somebody say, well, let's go do this, and it really doesn't feel good to you, then it's your choice at this point to say, okay, I'm going to do that. But if you choose to still ignore it, pay attention to where you're going and wherever you're doing, and then kind of keep attentive to how you feel when you're there. And I'm not talking about emotional feel, which is a lot of people get involved in emotional feeling. And what is an emotional feeling? Emotional feeling is really a trigger of a program or something of some sort, which engages the emotion. I'm talking about a true knowing feeling that this fits me and this doesn't fit me, or in the fact feeling that I'm in resonance with this, or something of that nature. So there's a big difference between those type of experiences. So if you choose to go down a path, you're going to find it. Now, if you're feeling confused, you ask yourself, what am I feeling confused about? Well, something doesn't make sense. So if you spend the time to write it out, what doesn't make sense, and start to look at it more closely, you're going to find that in one way or another, you will expose some of the things that you may have put a focus on or value, or can still be used as a foundation of maintaining that older version or that way of life for yourself. And you want to make a choice by tapping into it and say, okay, does this still serve me? Am I here to play this game? Now, if you're saying, no, I don't feel it, but then there's a certain fear that comes up, or concern that comes up, or something of that nature, because if I drop this, because this is what happens. Uncertainty is used very powerfully, and confusion is used very powerfully by the ego. So if you're making a choice, the ego is going to jump in and say, what? Well, we already know this game. We already know these people. We already know this way of life. You want to go there, it's going to be unsure. I can't protect you there. We've never been there before. And if we go there, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. You may lose this and you can't go back. If that's not a good experience, you can't go back. So it's going to create that. It's going to stimulate it very powerfully. And that's how it's used. It's used to keep you, in a sense, slow down and not to move forward. Now, there's a big difference that's happened. Many of us, when you have those uncertainty and confusion come up, and it has still playing for a lot of people, you will notice it has changed. The way it responds for you is quite different in the way it used to. Now, you may only be getting just the introductory point of it, and some of you a lot further. Because when the ego says, hey, if you let go of this road and go down this road, not only it's unsure, it's unknown, and many of us are playing with the game of fear of the unknown. This is the unknown. Uncharted territory. The road no one traveled yet, even though maybe the road traveled less because there's less people that travel that direction. But, we're going down a road that I can't support you on. And then you have the other. So That is, if we're going to go down this road, you may lose this and you can never have it back. So it will create that. But what happens? We're going back to that. What happens to us? Well, before, the uncertainty, the confusion, the potential fear, and whatever the dialogues that would come from the ego would, in most cases, either slow us down to make it, and so that you're just taking baby steps this direction, or the fact that you would not leave and you would stay there comfortably until it got super uncomfortable. Now, we're already experiencing an intensified uncomfortableness, but what happens? What we are being supported, activated, encoded, and what we've adopted as a way from our core essence is the fact that that resistance that the ego is giving you of the uncertainty, there's a sense of excitement for the uncertainty. In fact, it makes us stronger. Look at all the lockdown stuff that's been going on. How many people have pushed it to the point where they're questioning what we are being told, questioning who's saying it, questioning, is it even something to give power to? But also, at this point in time, is saying, I am no longer choosing to support this narrative and becoming more empowered, because there's the transfer happening from disempowerment, meaning that you're giving power, authority, expertise, and getting instructions from, say, a group, individual, or system, or something of that nature, to the point of bringing it back to you and saying, that's that. But what do I want to do? What am I going to create? What direction am I going to go? So the questioning is that allows you to go the uncharted area for you, because many have already started going into those charters, and start to question and look at things very differently. And in fact, some of us are saying, no, I no longer consent. I am no longer just taking what I've been told. And it doesn't matter if it comes from family, it doesn't matter if it comes from my working environment or friends or anything else, or the media, or the educational system, or the so-called self-regulated or self-deemed experts or anything of that nature. I'm going to really make my own decision. So that's the empowerment state. You're taking back what you've given, the navigating capacities, back to you, and now you're directing your path based on your design, your discovery or research of any sort. Now, not only that, there are many, many more people that are going that route. You can see, if you're even paying attention to any of the alternative media, if you want to call it that, but also the social media. Now, the social media is polarized for sure. There's maybe more on the negative side or more of the old world than the new world. But if you're looking and you really feel that, you're going to find others that are sharing certain information. Now, I'm not saying to take that as your expertise, saying, okay, that's the authoritative. No, to be able to research, and then anything that you accept, even from the mainstream, you run it through a filter. You run it through your own self, discernment, your own guidance system, to see how it resonates or not. The resonating part of yourself is your internal guidance system that's looking at the facts, the information that is being offered, and see which one resonates more. Now, you may only resonate partially, so you take that partial part and you now look for some other partial parts, and when you start putting it to pieces, the pieces together, you're going to create something that resonates in a more powerful way. In doing so, when you're getting to that higher level of resonance, then you can now shape and choose how you're going to move forward. Now, the other part of it that happens when we're talking about uncertainty, confusion, and whatever else, besides writing it all out and looking at all of that, one of the practices you can adopt, one of it is utilizing a form of meditation, which is going into a quieter state, but you use visualization, but we're not going into visualization. We're going to look through the third eye. We're going to look at how you, not to visualize from what your ego is telling you to do, visualize what you are reflecting from within. All of us has this new world. All of us has a directional component within ourselves that is saying, this is the redirecting we're doing. We're going from here, we're going to there. And the reason we're going to there, because that is the direction that we need to go to. That direction we're done with. We've experienced it, and so forth. It doesn't matter how much opposition, restrictions, or resistance of any sort that happens in that direction, we're going to feel stronger and stronger. So by us tapping into ourselves and envisioning this world going how it feels best for you. And we're not talking about an ego, artistic, feel-good type of thing, happy and unhappy, and I'm going to be happy if I have this. No, it's about seeing that world unfolding. Several things happen when you do that. When you are seeing through your third eye, that third eye is a portal. It is our communication link to all the souls on the planet in a very powerful way. So the fact that you're using that through your third eye, you already are distributing it throughout all of the souls, all the playmates on the playground. So all these other third eyes get that input. Now, if they use it, don't use it, how they use it, and so forth, it's up to each individual, because we have the freedom to choose how far we're going to go or not. Now, the beauty of it, that as you're doing that, others are doing different things or some similarities, and we're all streaming amongst each other. So a lot of times when we're seeing through our third eye, we're receiving from other transmitters, other versions of ourselves that are presenting all of that. And that actually helps us to become even more crystal clear for ourselves. And that's another powerful tool that you could use. So it's not for us to get caught up in the confusion and uncertainty. That is an instrument for us to look deeper. So when we run into this, the uncertainty part and the confusion, say, okay, I'm not here to look for the answer outside of me. I'm going to, yes, observe what's going on around me, but at the same time, guess what? I'm going to tune in and say, okay, what would support me best moving forward? What would step me outside of that confusion? You're tapping into that part of you. You all have a level of knowing. All of us have it. We may have put it on the back burner. We may have tuned it down for a period of time to kind of play the game. But right now, you know, that wants to speak out. That wants to come forth in a very powerful way. So when we understand that the majority of the confusion, uncertainty is ego-based, and that from that, it's only trying to keep you stuck in your old world, and it will use, we can call fear, to slow us down. Fear can be paralyzing and so forth. But the stuck state, this is getting really challenged right now. And the old world is getting challenged. The old world feels more and more uncomfortable. You know, people say, well, going back to the norm. You know, when are we going to go back to the norm? What wants the norm? Ego. Ego wants the norm. Why? Because that was the construct. That's what it's designed to play with. But we've built our world on norms. But when you look at it, what is a norm? A norm is something we may have done for a while and now we have deemed normal. Norm could be also that other people are doing it and it's normal. You probably heard it growing up, going through your life, experiencing your life. Be normal. Or this is what's normal. This is what's acceptable. This is what is right. And all of that stuff. So this becomes very powerfully controlling. And using the fear is the part that slows you down the most. But once we understand that it's coming from here, and it's not about going back to the norm in any way, shape, or form, and it's not creating a new norm either. Okay? You could say a new norm in a sense, well, the new norm has no norm. But if you're talking about level another norm, then we're going to create another stage. So here's one norm. Okay, this is the norm we played for a long time. And now what are we going to do? Establish a new norm. So here's a new norm. Short form for normal. Are we going to go from one norm to another? Or are we going to say we drop the norms, we become free flow, fluid beings. We're not going to put any obstacles. We're not going to rigidify, new word, rigidify, make rigid, make rigids of your going from one to the other, because each one becomes like that box I was saying in other episodes. This is you being in there. Are we going to say we're going to come out of this box and just go into another box? You again? Say, okay, this is my new box. The last thing we want to do is play in boxes. We've played for a long time. And guess what? The ego is going to say, this is safe. Safe. The box is safe. And if we copy everybody, it's safe. And if we create a new norm and everybody is okay with that, it's safe. I can give you security. I can give you safety. It's an illusion, absolutely. First of all, the whole idea is made up. But it could say, well, it's going to be safe to play there. But what are we doing really? We're dropping the norm. Totally. We're no longer. We're now creating everything new, moment by moment. Every wave, every stimulation, every transformation that happens within us, we're upgrading our experience and all of our different worlds. Our immediate being ourself, our close facsimile, or whatever you want to call it. Is that the word?
Facsimile.
Yeah, something like that. Your environment next, closest to you and further, and then the worldscape. You're creating everything brand new. Okay? Moment by moment. We're talking about progress. We're looking at the world and say, hey, I want to create a new world. I want to create a new reality. I want to match it to my true essence. We're talking about transformations. Transformation from that inverted 3D, inverted 2D, inverted in matrix thing that we've kind of are wiping out, and we're now creating these organic ones, or they are already there, but we're integrating it and utilizing for our experience. And we can't stop there, because it doesn't matter if you decided to start this as your start base, your organic, and I'll write organic here, organic 3D, and or even if you went into 5D, which is also organic, but we have all the way up to 12D to play with. You can't do that jumping from one box to the other. Why? Because you spend so much time moving from this to this, and this is a complete construct. Before this becomes a norm, there's a level of adoption by a collective, by groups. It's like this. I'm going to take down this building, I'm going to move from this house, and I'm going to move to this other house. But until I get furnished and established and whatever else. So you're moving from one to the other. That would be great. But how long now, with all the things that are going on, that it's going to feel outside of uncomfortable very quickly. So you put a lot of effort in building this new box, and how much focus is on self-discovery, expansion, accessing higher levels of yourself, to really be the creator that you are in full utilization, if that's what you're doing. So this is the thing. So we have to pay attention that if we're feeling in any way or certain uncertainty, it's because it's coming out of this box and then it's looking for another box, a new norm or whatever it wants to call it. But that's not what we want to do. We're not going down that road, down that path, that way of life any longer. And yes, with expedited or expedited acceleration of change, it's going to feel somewhat uncomfortable when the ego is on hold and saying, oh my God, we don't have any footing here. We're in the unknown. We can't set any norms here anymore because it's so uncomfortable. Everything is moving so powerfully, so fast. We can't set our tent down, for some people that like to camp, because we have to keep moving. This is the thing. The moving is basically not creating any rigidity and just keep expanding and growing within it. That's the way we're going to make it. Now, some people are saying, well, things are moving and they're unstable. Granted, it can feel that way. Others are saying it's not moving fast enough. But at the same time, some of these people, and in most cases a lot of these people, are saying it's not moving fast enough. The moment that it picks up any speed, oh my God, they start to panic. They start to, feel confused and uncertain about things, or feeling lost or something of that nature, feeling that I don't know where it's going to be or lead to. This is one of the reasons people want to know about the future, want to know where we're going to go. This is heavily to do with the future. Big time. Future. I need to know the future, or else things are uncertain. It's uncertain what the future is going to be. Well, from a lockdown, limited conscious state, not knowing the future will create this. But the true you is not concerned about this at all. Not giving any power to that. It's saying, let's jump in and play. Let's see what we can create with these new resources, new levels of accessibility, our upgraded versions of ourselves. What can we do? Now we are no longer choosing to rely on so-called authority, so-called system, so-called experts. We may pay attention to certain things if it does make any sense to us or actually resonates for us, but we are coming collectively to create a new world. That new world does not represent the old world that we've been living for 10,000 years. It doesn't. We're going to do it in stages, but those stages are speeding up. What is required for us to be able to move through those stages is also speeding up, also intensifying, also becoming much more powerful than ever before. As you can see, there is so much going on right now. And it will elevate even further going into the coming year. Here we are, only a couple of weeks or so away from stepping into 2021. And looking at, and this is one of the factors here, looking at what we've gone through for 2020, looking at all that's being projected right now, and what people are feeling and sharing and expressing, especially the systems and the authority or so-called authority figures or authority organizations and groups, well, yeah, it's going to accentuate uncertainty very much. And it's going to create confusion and its brother sister called fear. Many of us are feeling that, especially with these additional lockdowns, additional restrictions, the offering of vaccinations and what it's going to be like or anything of that nature. And yes, it is stepping up. What is stepping up? Just the mandates and whatever else. It's not the actual, what they deemed as a problem. It has nothing to do with that. That is fabricated like everything else is. But at the same time, it's pushing us. Because what people call fear-mongering, or creating the stage for us to react, because when we're afraid, okay, we have a tendency to find some place to get that so-called security. And at that point, we may not be so concerned about what is it going to cost. How much of my freedom am I giving away? That's the cost I'm talking about. How much freedom? How much do I have to go into this box? That's the part. How much am I going to jump into this box? What corner am I going to huddle in? Right here? That's the thing. So the fear is, if you don't do this or don't do that, guess what? Now the confusion and the uncertainty, it's going to feel inside and say, wait a minute here, this doesn't make sense. This is where the honoring and the connecting with ourselves, the respecting of ourselves, and say, okay, I'm open to listen to what's going on, but I'm going to run it through my own resonance. That is my own inner knowing. And then from there, I decide what I play with, what I don't play with, where I go, where I don't go. What do I induce as a way of creation of life or not? This is the thing. This is what we're doing. Because it's up to us. And that's what's so important. So if you are feeling confusion and uncertainty, ask yourself. Do it on paper though. Write it out, what you feel confused about and uncertain. And then pinpoint where the source of that is. And yes, you may be feeling it current. And then say, okay, what do I require to step out of confusion, step out of uncertainty? What do I need to know? And if it's saying that you need to know where the future is going to be, then you want to say, okay, well, say that's not possible. Say that that is not an option. What am I going to do now? Am I still going to put my energy there? Or am I going to say, okay, so it's unknown. All right, where do we go from here? It's unknown, I'm good. Same thing with confusion. What am I confused about? Well, there's so many narratives, so many stories, so many inputs. I'm confused about what direction to go. I'm confused about the way that I interact with people, whatever that may be. Write it all out. And then give you the scenario that it goes to what you call the unknown scenario, where you can't have that particular part. Because when you're in your higher state, those equations don't come in. Not at all. You're rock solid. You're excited, actually. You're feeling super motivated to really play the game in a really upgraded version or way. You're not going to get caught up in the whole feeling that in one way or another I need to do this or that. There's not going to be focus of that. And this is the thing. That's what's the grounding. That's why I even talked about in the workshop, self-grounding. Self-grounding, grounding to yourself. Grounding to that core essence of consciousness, essence of sourceness that you are. You're a powerful being. You came to play in a powerful playground that has given you the opportunity to lose connection to that powerful beingness, and now you're bringing it back online. And that's the thing. Was there anything you wanted to say, questions or anything? You have your 2 cents about all this stuff because you're the wise one.
No, is my mic working?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just gonna say, as an observation, the uncertainty part, like when we're in our moment, it's like embracing the uncertainty, because that's where all the potential lies. It's very expansive, really, because, when you say tune into who you are, and you're standing in that power, and nothing is certain. That's because there are so many options to pick from, and for us to be holding the highest possible frequency to pick the highest possible option, and then we always are, leveling up from there. So, yeah, that's my little 2 cents worth for that.
Okay. So, in your own experience, do you still feel the same level of uncertainty and confusion like you used to, or?
No, actually, I see the confusion around me. I feel very much more solid in myself now, and I've had overwhelm where there's so much coming at me from, if I'm paying attention to everybody's narrative. And so that can throw you off your game and off your frequency. So it's really important to maintain your own frequency, like stay in your own power. Turn off TVs or turn off those things and really just step into you. And because I know if you're on the call, you're probably feeling the excitement, like you were saying, of the future. Yeah, the future isn't written out. It is written out in one way, that it's going to unfold, and we are going to the highest timeline. How we're going to get there is uncertain at this moment, but it's up to us. So staying in our certainty that we will arrive, and not, lend any power to anything else.
Mm-hmm. Now,
You never arrive, really, but I know you know what I mean.
never arrive. You're right, and that's what I wanted to talk about. But at the same time, were there any methods or anything that you've used personally to shift from, say, concerns and uncertainty when you were experiencing
one of the
it?
biggest things would be to stop looking at the media stuff. Not like we didn't watch mainstream media anyways, but I mean, even Facebook has lots of different narratives. I mean, there's a shitload of stuff going on out there. People are saying lots of different things about a lot of different things. So, because it comes down to, none of that matters really to me anyways. This is how I see it. I got to the point where it's like, none of that outside stuff really matters. What matters is how I am right now in my moment, and how I'm responding to my life and to what I want to achieve, and putting my focus on that. It's like, really tuning into your inside, what you have to do to take care of yourself, and to live from that higher perspective, and be in that moment. So that's enough in itself, just doing that, and staying focused and on track. We don't need any extra distractions from that, because everything's going to unfold regardless. So, and we're the ones determining how it's going to unfold. So we really need to be in our space. Like, we're the ones that are doing it. So I don't know if I can say that any clearer than that, but
yeah, exactly. And yeah, we're with all the information that we are receiving all the time. I mean, it can pull us one way or another. But the thing is, One of the things you can do, and I'm sure you've done it yourself, Kimberly, is that when you're looking at something, even the mainstream, or even the stuff on Facebook or YouTube or wherever else, there's lots of platforms of social media that you're going to pay attention. You're listening to something, and if it doesn't feel aligned, or it doesn't feel comfortable, or it feels like awkward or something like that, or instills certain levels of fear, then you make the choice of saying, yeah, this is not something I want to put my attention on. Sometimes what we do, and I'm sure you've noticed that you're listening to something and there's a part of you that says, I don't want to listen to this. It really feels very strong. I don't want to listen to it. Or it just somehow it irritates me. And when I say irritate, it's like, it doesn't, it's like uncomfortable, some scratching on whatever, blackboards and whatever else. And that's kind of you saying, it's going that direction. Because I notice sometimes people provide me some videos to kind of check out and whatever else. And I can usually listen to a few minutes of it and whatever else. And you can tell right off the bat that where it's going, or, what the energy behind it, and say, okay, I don't need to hear any more about this. And then I can share it with somebody and say, okay, this is what I'm getting from it. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but whatever. And anything else that anybody recommends, at this point in time, or the fact that you run into, you get to discern very easily. It becomes very apparent for you what actually is playing out, and then what is a narrative that's constructed to make you believe something. So there's something to make you believe something, and then there's something that is really playing out. Now, you may discern from, okay, this is made up and I don't need to give power to it, but then even what is playing out, actually playing out, what is the grander purpose of it playing out? And not only what the grander purpose is, what is the narrative beyond what's really going on? I mean, this may be true. Like, for example, you got the lies and you got the truth. The lies are saying this is happening when it's not, okay? But then a lot of the stuff that's happening is based on what? Possibly more lies, possibly other older perceptions, possibly older narratives too. So it may be true because it's happening, but what's behind it happening, or whatever that is. So this is the thing. When people say, well, these things are happening, numbers are climbing, whatever it is. Why is it? Well, they're doing more tests. Yeah, but are the tests actually real? Are they actually doing what they're supposed to do, whatever it is, right? So they may not be lying about the cases or lying about something, but what are they using the method to create that feedback or reality, and saying, oh, okay, it's because of this. So these are the things. So we end up really honing in on our discernment. And I'm sure you've had to do the same thing when it comes to really, you're bringing higher levels of discernment into it as you're moving along.
And the more you do it, the more you discern, the better you get at it. And the more we, do the work on ourselves and clear our programs and step out of that old ego programming, then the clearer we see things, and so and the neutrality shows up. So I just want to, there's a question that was asked here, so which we can maybe elaborate on here, is how do we walk the path of neutrality while seeing abuse on animals and children? Because that's stuff that goes on.
No, I know, and that's a tough one, for sure, absolutely. For us, it's very tough to watch. What I mean by neutrality is that you're not in a reactive mode of good, bad, right, wrong. Now, if you see harm being done to animals and kids, if you get angry and judgmental and you want to crucify the people who are doing it and you want to fight, that's not a powerful state. You're basically trying to get into a state where you're unbalanced. Okay? So what neutrality does is where you're not judging what's going on. You're not comparing what's going on. It doesn't throw you off balance, but you are observing something playing out that is not of highest order. that is not supportive to the true essence that we are, then you take action. You share whatever, not in demonization or demonizing of anything that's going on. That was a couple of new words. What's going on, but to make it aware and what steps can be taken so that this is no longer being perpetuated, no longer supported, no longer obscured where it continues to play. This is the thing. The reason I say neutrality is powerful, it's not acceptance to the sense, okay, there is a certain level of acceptance, say, okay, this is what it is. This is what's happening. I'm not going to see it as good, bad, right, wrong. Fine. However, this action, this thing that's playing out, is not a true reflection of who we are as cooperative, collaborative, oneness. So what can I do? What can I instigate or get together with to not only expose that is going on, to take action to bring it to a completion, a termination, so it no longer affects it. So you can create a movement or whatever it is, but not a riot, not a way where you're wanting to create more destruction towards the ones that are doing it. Yes, they may be taken out of the equation, may go through, the old system right now, but at this point in time, see, from that powerful state, your choices and actions do not become irrational. Your choices and action are not, polarized. Those choices and actions will not make you react in a certain way and not to use the most skilled way to make a step forward to change that event. Because the other thing is, too, in neutrality, you're not going to go into fear either, afraid to speak out, afraid to share, afraid to expose whatever that game is, so to bring other people together to say, okay, this is no longer acceptable. This is something that we do not want to see continue to play because it doesn't belong in our new world. It does not belong in the game that we are upgrading to. That was the old game. That was the old narratives or whatever it is. And that applies to anything, even most of the systems that we have. We're not here to demonize it or judge it, but to look at it and say, this does not match. This does not serve us to bring us the highest state of being. This is not the most purest reflection of who we are. This is not what we are creating further moving forward in our reality. Therefore, we are going to work toward shifting this, wrapping it up, removing it, whatever that may. And you're doing it in a powerful state because you're not off balance. You are in neutrality where you're bringing all of it together. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did we address it okay for that person? Okay. Is there any other questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Any other things I did not cover around all of this? So I was going to talk about, like you said, there's never arriving because it's not about getting anywhere. The new world is not a new world. The new world is new, but it's an expanding world. It is an expanding aspect of ourselves. It's always upgrading. We're bringing in more consciousness, more dimensional states of consciousness within it. We're changing and upgrading the operating system along the way. So the point is not arriving. It's about further and further expansion, further and further growth, further and further high elaborate creations and experiences accordingly. And yes, like Kimberly was saying, there's a lot of options. A lot of options can create confusion and uncertainty. But the thing is, if you take the time to look at your options and really see how it resonates for you and really feels in alignment with you. Because the thing is, you can make a choice. So say you have choice number one. Oops. And then you have choice number two. Say you make choice number one, and not number 2, you're going to do choice number 1. You're going to experience along the way. And then if you find that somehow while you're on choice number 1 that it's starting to change, or you're starting to change where choice number 1 doesn't match you any longer, then you go to choice number 2 and 3 and 4 and whatever. This is the thing. These are stepping stones. This is why even resonating, I'm sure you've all experienced it to some degree or another where something really resonated for you. You took the action, you went down that path, and then it didn't resonate any longer. Now, if the ego gets its grip, it's going to say, oh, you made a mistake, that was bad information, or anything of that nature. But if that's not grabbing you, you say, okay, well, I needed to get this far. I needed to go from A to B, and now I can go to C, but A to B required one certain choice. So from A to B, needed choice number 1. Now to go from B to C, I need choice number 2, and so on. The thing is, to say, well, I want choice number 2, which would take you over here, but this step was necessary. And that's the thing. And we get convinced by our ego and all the systems and everything else that we make mistakes. No, we make choices. Choices have outcomes. Choices have experiences. Choices have opportunity. Choices bring us to the next level from A to B. Now, there are distracting choices too, but if you connect with what resonates with you, you're going to choose the one that basically is going to take you from A to B, and then from B to C, and so on. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, yes, we're stepping out of the norms. Yes, we are no longer playing the game the way it was before. And the game has changed, and it is changing, and it is also staging itself. If you pay attention, and I'm sure many of you are starting to, as you observe and pay attention, you will notice not only the systems are collapsing or destabilizing, but the playmates within them, even the representation of authorities and so forth, are making more and more blips, are making more and more apparent that we do not know, and that it was the role we stepped into. But we want you to empower yourself and to step out of it, even though that is not indicated when they're actually showing the opposite. In fact, they are to make you stronger to make the choice. But at the same time, they're showing you more and more. We don't know what we're doing. It was never our job to do so. Yes, we may have had our own narratives that we've collectively created in that inverted world, but at the same time, we're noticing the reactions or response of the so-called leaders and so-called experts and authority really floundering like crazy. No stability. One time they say this, another time they say that. In fact, they're actually forcing us to say, hey, you got to go in the box, and we're going to make the box smaller. And you can't have what you used to have as a choice to go play with other people or to celebrate or to do anything, to the point where you say, no more. No more. Go ahead.
Amanda's asking, how can we look at all options when we don't know what all options there are?
Well, deal with the options that you have available first and foremost. So, when you accept the options that are there, you say to yourself, I'm open to look at other options, and then see if any other options come in. Now, by meditating and connecting with yourself, and especially if you're looking through your third eye, you actually end up seeing more options that are not so much apparent in the mirrored reflection or what we're looking in our surroundings. Okay? This is where our imagination and our creativity comes in. It expands and provides us many more options that we normally don't see reflected around us. This is how many creators that are inventors, designers, artists, and other people that are even doing certain work in the work environment. There may be only so much that has been discovered, but now there's a need for something more than that. So you allow your imagination, you allow the processing factors. Now, you think your mind is creating it. Yes, in a way it does, because it already has a lot of input. But it's going to take input from your body, from your human entity, from your soul, from your third eye, which is actually also receiving inputs from other souls. But you're also, when you're tapping into it, you're also tapping into other dimensional states of consciousness, which we all take in, process, and it comes up with what we refer to as ideas, new ways of looking at things. That's how your options expand. You don't have to have them all. If you only have a few and you say, okay, I would like to introduce some other ones, do that process. But then use the options available, even the ones that you've tapped into, to start down that path. While you're down that path, more options will unveil. More options will become available. More options will be created and opened up. That's how you do it. I've experimented myself over the years, and I've seen many people that I've communicated with. You know, they don't know what they're working on, but they start with what they have available. You may only put down a couple of words. You may only do a couple of strokes on a piece of paper. You may just see a version of the world to what it is. But then, as you're doing that, more keeps coming in. And more becomes access. And if it stops, you can walk away for a little while. Sure while. Come back and just sit there and looking at it, whatever it is. And more will come about. If you want to look at more of your options, one tool you can use, the meditating part, but please write it out, draw it out. What are my available options? And write down what those available options are. From those options, you can expand and say, okay, what else is available within those options? You can also write a category. What other options are available that I'm not seeing right now? And just sit with it. You will be amazed at what will pop up. Now, if it doesn't, that's okay too. Use the options you have. Because I'm telling you, when you're experiencing those options, go back to that. You'll see more options will come. It's always worked flawlessly for everyone that actually puts the focus on that. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, we don't always know. It's floating around out there, and when we quiet ourselves and just tune in or allow or ask even for inspiration or whatever, what's the next move, if we can be quiet, it'll come. We'll get the answer, and it works. It's like I was talking to my friend Angela today, and she writes, and she said, you know, she just was sitting at her table and information. She asked for her guides to help, and she just was quiet for a bit, and inspiration just came, and she started writing. And you know, we don't always have to have it there ahead of time. We just have to be present, and just allow it to flow through, and do it that way.
Yeah, perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that. You know, and that's how it works. Most of the creators allow their imagination and creativity just to take hold, but you start with what you have. Most people that write books and build courses and do whatever, you know, and design new discoveries or new technologies, new something. They all start with what they have at hand. They can ask their guides, like Angela was saying. They can ask their higher aspects of themselves, and they can just be there. And the thing is, it's all coming, and it starts to drop in, and then you start expanding with that. Before you know it, the book is written, the design is made, the art piece is done, that piece of music that was written, and now it's being shared. All of this stuff comes together. We're not here to be limited. As much as that we've played that game before, it's not what we're here to do anymore. We're not here to play limited any longer. And that's the part that we are all realizing at this point. Okay? Mm-hmm. Good. So, when we look at it, now we understand how it's made up, how it comes about. How do we move forward? We've covered many of those things because we're moving through it. This is not normal. When I say, let me rephrase that. This is not natural. Uncertainty and confusion is not natural. What's natural is excitement, exploration, opportunity, creativity, imagination, and the designer that you are to redesign your life. And it's not a stagnant life, it's a fluid, expanding life. Design, experience, undesign, create a new design and experience further. So some stuff you build on, you build one level, and you build the second level, and so forth, to keep building on it. But some parts you may just remove. Sometimes you may take it all and redesign it completely. And this is what we're doing right now. We're just keeping the very basic foundation that was originally established 15,000 years ago, 15K years. Let's put the K in there, 15K years ago. And that was around for 5,000 years. So we may use that as a foundation, but expanded foundation for the 5K year that it was active. But the stuff that we had for the 10K years, K years up to this now, at this point, is the part that we are disassembling. Because that was designed outside of our framework of what we actually came originally with the intent. Because the original intent of the retooling of planet Earth and what it needed to express to be, and its location and its purpose, and the design, the elaborate, immense design of our human experience and all its multifacetedness of itself was not reflected over the 10,000 years. Yes, we used all of that within the 10,000 years, but it was that original intent. So we're going to use this intent. That's what we're bringing in as the foundational in an upgraded version. So it's going to be upgraded. It's not going to be in its old form. So it's in the upgraded version of it, but we're building everything new. And that's it. So use the tools shared. If you're feeling uncertainty and confusion, write it out, what it is. Look at where it's the source and see what options you have. It's a beautiful, powerful way to move along. Is there anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So just to remind you that if you missed out on the workshop, it's available in the link and in the comments section. The link to get the audio and video recording is donation-based, so it has no restrictions for the money aspect of things. Of course, it supports us. If all of this work resonates for you and you feel in any way, shape, or form you would like to support our work even further, there is a place where you can provide contributions and donations also in the description and also in the link or the comment section, depending on whatever platform you're on. And yeah, so we get to play some more. I think we're looking at next Tuesday. So next Tuesday we'll be doing our next episode. Last Tuesday we had to reschedule due to some conflict of scheduling conflictation. Is that a word?
Conflict.
Just conflict. scheduling
It was
conflict.
just some scheduling conflict.
No, Asian?
Okay, you can add the Asian to it, honey, if you want.
Complication? Conflict, whatever. I like to make new words here and there.
He does. like
Okay,
great words.
yeah, so we couldn't do it, and plus the guy that's standing up here was having too much fun the other way, so wasn't able to be, but mainly it was schedule issues. Okay, great, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes and also for the podcast. It has gone on hold temporarily because of certain issues, but we're getting that back on track shortly.
Yeah, we're getting there, but I mean, it's just may not be every day. I've already sent that out in a last
Okay.
email just to let people know that even though it's not as often as we had hoped it would be, Franco will put them out as often as he's able to at this time. That's
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's flowing, going with the flow.
Going with the flow.
Yes.
May resist the flow sometimes, but
Yes. he may
going with the
resist.
flow. We all have our share of fun resistance.
Yeah.
Okay, till next time, have a blast, go out and play, and do and be the awesome you that you are.